You suck at cooking, yeah, you totally suck.
Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Binging with Babish, where this week I'm double dipping into the same show 2 weeks in a row. Because I'm curious, can we improve upon the classic combination of butter, 2 slices of white bread, and some yellow American cheese to make the ultimate grilled cheese?
For some reason, everybody seems to think that they make the best grilled cheese, which is like, I get it, it's such a simple thing to make. Today we're really gonna put it to the test. Maybe scrutinize it just a little bit.
This is one of my local haunts. It's a burger and beer place, but one day we ordered the grilled cheese sandwich off the kids' menu, and I was like, what is this? Did they make a grilled cheese out of a pancake? Oh, derp. It's a smashed hamburger bun, and it's crazy delicious. It's like a cross between a panini and a pastry.
We're going to start this sandwich by grabbing a chunk of medium cheddar. Then you want to grab the cheese grater of your choice and a nice cold measuring cup or bowl. The M in medium cheddar stands for melty, or maximum meltitude.
So first up we need a control group, which is a classic yellow American white bread Vermont creamery butter grilled in a non-stick pan cheese stretch. Hell yeah, dude. But how do we make this a grilled cheese deluxe? Let's start with the bread. White bread is definitely the only way to go because the least healthy option is always going to be the tastiest one, but I'm going to try a few different lubrications. Plain butter, butter mixed with a little bit of mustard, full-fat mayonnaise, and light olive oil.
Okay, so let's address the first elephant in the room. Mayo versus butter for toasting. Everybody seems to start thinking that mayo is a better option versus butter. Well, let's test it out. So I've got 2 of the exact same types of bread here. I'm gonna spread my butter on this one, and I'm gonna spread my mayo on this one. The butter's room temperature, by the way. Then I place them both in the exact same pan at obviously the same temperature. Right off the bat is that the mayo toasted way faster than the butter did. My guess is just the oil's heating up faster because the butter has to actually go from like softened to melted and then start toasting. But you know, that's just a guess. Okay, so on the left is the butter and on the right is the mayo. Obviously the mayo got a little bit over toasted, but just a little.
This is Brandon Humphreys showing us how it's done. That's clarified butter he's rolling onto a brioche hamburger bun. Slice of Swiss and 2 slices of cheddar on the inside, and then he smashes it on the griddle with a weight. Brioche is buttery and a little sweet, so when it gets intense heat like this, it goes really brown and crispy, which is why this sandwich tastes almost like a pastry. He flips it after 3 minutes, and the reason he cuts it before it's done cooking is so the cheese from the 2 halves will melt together again.
And we'll grate around 1 cup. Then go ahead and whip that grater into the yard. And then you want to grab that salami. We're going to chop this salami. Oh, right. And then you want to grab that. No. Thank you. Now we're going to chop the salami so that when you bite into this sandwich, you don't cause a cheese squeeze by trying to rip the salami apart with your teeth. It's like having a toothpaste tube with no sides, which sucks unless your teeth are cylindrical.
I'm just going to toast these guys up one at a time in a plain, ungreased non-stick skillet, and we're looking for aesthetic but mostly flavor here. We obviously want a deep brown, rich, and savory crust, but we don't want to steal the spotlight from the star of the show, the cheese. So let us bring in the taste testers. They are 1 Sawyer Carter Jacobs, my business partner and best friend extraordinaire, and Vincent Cross, the newest and tallest addition to the Babish culinary universe. Their opinions were split on these different toast lubrication methods. Sawyer was pure olive oil, and Vinny was all about butter. And I gotta say, I side with Vinny on this one. Butter is the one and only true way for grilled cheese.
Okay, so the first thing I'm noticing is the butter got a much deeper, sort of crunchier toast, and the mayo got sort of a thinner, crispier toast. So now let's test a couple ways to make a grilled cheese. For the sake of nostalgia, let's start with the American cheese one. Sorry, we have to do it. So you're gonna take 2 extraordinarily high glycemic index slices of bread and give them a nice even coating of softened butter, salted, unsalted, whatever floats your boat. Now place one of the slices in a cold pan, butter side down. Put a couple slices of American cheese on there, as many as you want. I did 3. And then top of the other slice of bread, butter side facing up. Let that toast from anywhere between 3 to 6 minutes over medium heat until nice and toasted. Give it a flip, repeat, and that's it. It's a grilled cheese. It's ridiculously easy. Granted, I will say this thing toasts immaculately. It's insane how this type of bread toasts. It's like really strange.
Then comes some fancy stuff.
We add a dome and we do a little steam around the dome to ensure more moisture and the melting of the cheese.
That's just water that he squirted around there, and I guess it's seeping under the dome and steaming the sandwich a little bit. Well, certainly if you ever made a good basic grilled cheese sandwich at home, you know that covering it with a lid helps the cheese to melt all the way through before the bread burns.
So we're gonna let the knife do the chewing. And then we'll grab a wild ocean pickle because they taste a lot better than wild tree pickles. And it should be around 3 pickle widths long, or medium size. We're gonna dice this so our sandwich has ubiquitous picklitude.
Lots of cheese, so I've got 18 different kinds here that I'm going to try, including but not limited to sharp cheddar, mild cheddar, raclette, Havarti, Swiss, Gruyere, aged Gouda, young Gouda, Parmesan, Brie, Taleggio, mozzarella, blue, gorgonzola, provolone, goat, and Monterey Jack. Plus whatever else I had kicking around in the fridge. With 3 mini grilled cheeses at a time, my taste testers have returned to tell me what's what. Vinny was very concerned with the tensile strength of each cheese, but both were most interested in the flavor, color, and aged funk. But apparently none of us were concerned about our cholesterol levels. But I just kept telling myself I'm conducting these experiments in the name of science.
Okay, so let's make something a little more our speed. So I've got a country sourdough loaf of bread, slice that bad boy up, slather it with butter the exact same way, not too thick or not too thin. I would say about a half tablespoon or 7 grams per slice, maybe even more. 3 cheeses, cheddar, raclette, and Gouda. It's pronounced Gouda, but yeah, Gouda. Grate a 1/4 cup or about 28 grams each, and also be careful with your grater, please. So again, place your bread butter side down in a cold pan, mix those cheeses together and top with all the cheese, compress it and sort of press it down into, I guess, like a grated cheese patty. If you need to add more, add more. Then top with the other slice of bread, butter side up. Turn the heat on to medium heat and toast for 5 to 8 minutes or until nice and golden brown. Cheese is sort of beginning to melt. Flip it and repeat until cheese is melted and you got toasty brown.
Speaking of cheese, about a minute later, off it comes, and look at that stringy cheese oozing out as he pulls the halves apart. He got that by cutting the sandwich and then cooking it some more so the cheese melted back into itself. Honestly, that has no business being on the kids' menu. It's like they've discovered a whole new food. It's just so special, so good. I'm gonna try to adapt it for the home.
Then you want to grab some non-alcoholic Dijon mustard, and we'll put in around a teaspoon. Then we'll grab some fresh hot sauce. Put in a small squirt. Now grab a naturally occurring fang jangler and give that a good wang jangle.
Aged cheeses do not melt in the same way as young, heavily processed cheeses. This slice of yellow American dropped directly into a non-stick skillet melts perfectly and evenly and utterly without muss or fuss. Try this with a 2-year-old Parmesan, however, and all of your melty cheese dreams will be shattered. That's because the older cheese gets, not only does it lose more and more moisture, some kind of science bullshit happens with its casein proteins, and when you melt it, you're left with a ton of oil. To solve this problem, we're turning to J. Kenji Lopez Alt, who instructs us to hydrate 1 tablespoon of gelatin and 1 tablespoon of water before grating our top 4 cheeses together. I'm going with 4 ounces of sharp cheddar, 3 ounces of Gruyere, 3 ounces of young Gouda, and 2 ounces of Parmesan.
Okay, next one is gonna be a caramelized apple and brie grilled cheese. Can't go wrong with that. So to caramelize the apples, you're gonna use 2 apples, peeled, cheeked, and then cut into small bite-sized pieces, which equates to about 242 grams total after it's been processed. Toss that with 3.5 tablespoons or 44 grams of granulated sugar, a small pinch of salt, let that sit for about 20 minutes. Set the pot over medium-high heat and bring to a boil, then reduce to a simmer, and simmer until, well, caramelized and sticky. That's it. We're not making a jam. I want them caramelized on the outside, but not mushy on the inside. By the way, that recipe is enough for like 1 sandwich, so I'd recommend doing probably a triple or a quadruple recipe. So I got a brioche loaf of bread and slice that into slices. Slather it the same way with butter. Place it butter side down in a cold pan. Add a single layer of the caramelized apples, some grated cheddar cheese, and enough sliced brie to coat the whole surface. Now I know this is stacked a little tall. If you need to toss it into the broiler, you always can. Add your other slice of bread, butter side up. Toast for 5 to 8 minutes on both sides or until cheese is melted and you got the nice crusty brown.
It's the classic cheese and fruit combo.
I had to go to the fancy grocery store to get brioche buns. Cut that in half, and I'm just gonna do 1 slice of cheddar and a slice of Swiss. I don't like quite so much cheese, but you do you, friend. Now here's my trusty 10-inch nonstick skillet. Gonna preheat it on medium, or maybe just a little south of medium. I'm gonna need a weight, and that is literally a brick that I found in my backyard. I'll wrap it in foil for hygiene. Melt a little butter in the pan. I'm not gonna bother clarifying butter like they do at Okmulgee. They have a really hot grill, so they need to worry about the milk solids burning. That's why they take them out, but I don't think that we need to.
Whoops. Now you want to take some fresh solar-dried bread, and while we all know that bread is inherently evil, it's a necessary evil because without it your sandwich won't have a floor or a ceiling. Now we'll grab some farmed rainforest butter and spread that on one side of each slice of bread. Now we're going to cook this low and slow by turning the stovetop on medium-low slowly, and get that first one into the pan.
For a total of 12 ounces that we're going to set aside while we bring half a cup of evaporated milk to a boil, killing the heat and whisking in our hydrated gelatin until it is fully melted into the mixture. Then we're going to return the pan over low heat while we add in our cheese. You'll notice that my heat is not on because I'm stupid and I did this wrong. It still worked, it's just going to be a lot easier if you do this over low heat while you apply an immersion blender to the mixture in an effort to make it as smooth and homogeneous as possible. Then ideally you want to lay it down onto a plastic wrap lined baking sheet and spread it out as thin as possible. Instead, I'm going to press it into a plastic wrap lined ramekin and mold it into a cylinder that I can then cut into slices.
I think you get the gist. I'm not gonna run you through the whole process again, but I'll give you the lowdown on this last one. It was made with a pain au lait sort of loaf, some cooked bacon, just a little crispy, and a lot of pepper jack cheese. I will say that the pepper jack cheese has an incredible cheese pull. Nice and crispy on the outside, but then when you pull that, look at that stretch, it just goes on and on and on. It's beautiful. It's really beautiful.
When the butter's looking a little fizzy, I'll lay in the sandwich and on goes the brick. Really smash it in. I don't think that you need to do anything fancy with domes or steam. Between the brick and the walls of this pan, this is a pretty enclosed cooking environment. You can see the cheese melting easily there, maybe a little bit too much. I cooked it 5 minutes on the first side, probably too long, though boy, look at that gorgeous color. Then rather than using a dome, I'm just covering it back with the brick again, cooking it for another 3 minutes. Really pretty color on both sides, super crispy. I'm just cutting it after the cooking is over because I don't really care if my cheese oozes. As you can see, because I cooked it a few minutes longer than Brandon did, the cheese melted right out of the sides. It's hard to call that a mistake though, because it resulted in these crackery bits of fried cheese around the edge. I'm gonna call that a happy little accident.
Now we'll spread our chopped salami cheese mixture across that slice. I'm a firm believer in not trying to get it all on the bread in the first place. Just hawk it in there, then use a 2-prong system to fix it. The first prong being your 4-prong fork, and the second prong being your no-prong spoon. Now, if I was an interior designer using the colors of orange, green, and salami to decorate a room, I'd say I'm probably unemployed and nobody feels sad about it. Now just throw on the sandwich ceiling.
4 hours later, and once my cylinder has solidified, we are removing it using the plastic wrap, unwrapping it, and slicing into our quote-unquote processed cheese product. It's really pretty spooky to eat because it has the same texture and consistency as American cheese, but it tastes like Gruyere and cheddar and all that good stuff that we put in there. And it passes the melty test with flying colors, becoming incredibly soft and melty and malleable without pissing grease all over the place. And it's got all the flavor and texture that I could possibly ask for in a grilled cheese. All it needs is the olives. Now there's a grilled cheese deluxe that lives up to its name. And the olives were actually a pretty nice touch. They were like a refreshing acidic bite after all that richness and cheese. But I still didn't feel like we were done, and I knew I wasn't going to feel that way until I made my own bread.
Oh, wow. All right, so I think I have my verdict. Sourdough, butter, cheese, more bread. That's it. The more that you add to a grilled cheese, it starts to become less of a grilled cheese and more of just like a grilled sandwich. Really a matter of bread and cheese. Close runner-up, honestly, was the pepper jack and bacon. And the second thing is, using better cheese and better bread does make a difference and will make a better grilled cheese. More flavor, more texture, blah, blah, blah. You get the point.
Okay, now I'm going to try to take this recipe off the kids' menu, as it were. Make it a little bit more grown up by dabbing some balsamic vinegar into both sides of the bun. Slice of Swiss, and then a few spinach leaves, cheddar on top, and then I'll fry that one as before. My pan is a little hotter at this point, so I can try cooking it for less time. That was 3 minutes on side A, 2 minutes on side B, and you can see I lost a lot less cheese out of the sides this time. You know how grilled cheese and salad is a great combination? Well, this is that, except all in one bite. I'm sold. Now let's try a more substantial version. Good layer of mustard goes on the top bun, then some dill pickle slices on the bottom, 2 slices of Swiss cheese, no cheddar, and then some Serrano ham, 2 slices. You could use prosciutto instead. Now what we've got going here is basically a super thin Cuban sandwich. I'm just looking to see that cheese melting before I flip these.
Now you want to grab a nice flat wang You want to grab a nice, that's tiny wang jangler. I can never remember, oh, there we go. I really need to label these. So we'll just pretend it was rolling when I did the first flip. You want to cook that until it's golden brown and nice and melty, and we're done.
I've done this on the show before. Click the link in the upper right hand corner right now if you want to see how to make your own sandwich bread at home. But just to give you the breeze through, I'm combining 400 milliliters of water, 1 packet of instant yeast, 650 grams of all-purpose flour, 50 grams of sugar, 5 grams of salt, and 45 grams of unsalted butter in the bowl of a stand mixer. Kneading for 5 to 7 minutes, letting rise for 45 minutes in a covered oiled bowl, punching down and placing into a loaf pan loosely tinted with plastic wrap, and letting rise for 45 more minutes or until doubled in size, brushing down with melted butter and placing into a 400-degree Fahrenheit oven for 25 to 35 minutes until deeply golden brown, removing from the loaf pan, placing on a cooling rack, and making sure that the internal temperature registers about 200 degrees Fahrenheit, letting rest for 1.5 hours or until completely cooled. Whew, that was easy.
But do you want to know what else has more flavor and more texture? B-roll.
That was 4 minutes on side A and 2 on side B. And I'm very, very excited to eat that. But let's make one more. This one's for Lauren. She loves breakfast sandwiches. Beat 1 egg in a bowl, put in a little pepper and a pinch of salt. Then, in some butter, we're going to make a little half omelet. Pour it in and stir it until an even curd forms. Tip the pan around to let egg run into the gaps, and I'm being sure to shape this into a half moon. I'll flip it over onto itself so that I've got a quarter omelet, and it should be really runny inside because it's going to get cooked again, and we don't want it too dry in the end. Butter, bottom bun, and this time I'm going to use grated cheddar because I don't want too much cheese, but I do want it on both sides. Omelet, cheese, top bun, and with this one you got to gently lay the brick on. If you press down on it, it would squeeze the runny egg right out of the sides. Which of these beauties am I going to eat? Who am I kidding? It's going to be the Cuban. Ham and cheese and pickles and mustard on fried sweet bread. That is everything I want in food right there.
Quick impression, who am I?
It's not technically a grilled cheese unless it's only cheese, bread, and butter. If you put anything else in it, it's a melt, not a grilled cheese.
Correct. That's an impression of a sad, sad person, also known as a bit of a purist. Now, my eyes are telling me I cooked this just a bit too long, but my taste buds are telling my eyes to go f themselves because that sandwich is goddamn perfect.
I definitely overproved my loaf a little bit, but with a little trimming, it works perfectly as the foundation for our grilled cheese deluxe. Finally, I think we cracked it. Just some olives on the top, and then someone to help taste test. At this point, Sawyer and Vinny were at home for the weekend, but my buddy Justin here came over to tell me that I really knocked it out of the park with this one, which I really needed because I don't think I could eat any more grilled cheese. Maybe just one more.
Alright guys, and that is it. So, there are many ways to make a grilled cheese, but like I said before, you can only put so many things on a grilled cheese before it stops becoming a grilled cheese. So let's all collectively sit together and remember that. If you want a grilled sandwich with a lot of cheese on it, that's fair, but it's not a grilled cheese anymore.
But let your imagination run wild. Just take this concept, the smashed brioche grilled cheese. The cupcake shops, this should be the new fad. And we can all thank the folks at Okmulgee Brew Pub in Macon, Georgia. # not an ad, I just like that place.
You suck at cooking, yeah, you totally suck.